Hi and welcome to my instructional video for Knit a Heart. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for buying this kit and I hope you enjoy it and like the video. First of all, you're going to need two more things apart from your kit, and one is a 30cm ruler or a tape measure and the other is a pair of scissors. Apart from that, everything else you need is in your kit. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is start by making a slip knot. We need to measure a piece of yarn 30 centimetres long, and at this 30 centimetre point we're going to make the slip knot. So to do that, I wrap it round my fingers and then take it through the back and then slip it onto my thumb, just like that. Yeah, I'll try to show you that again. Take the yarn round your fingers, take it round the back and slip it onto my thumb. One more time, round my fingers, round the back and onto my thumb. Okay, now most knitting patterns will not tell you to leave a tail this long, but don't worry about that for now. This tail is going to become the hanging loop on your heart at the end, so don't worry about this for now. We just need to concentrate on the slip knot. So now you've got your slip knot, you need to take that and put it over your left hand needle, okay, and then pull. Now a lot of knitting patterns will tell you to pull this first knot quite tight, but because we've got to stretch this first set of stitches round the hoop afterwards, you need to make these first cast on stitches quite loose. So pull it to the needle, make sure it's nice and loose and not too tight, okay? So this is now your first stitch in your cast on row, and now we're going to make the rest of the stitches. So to make the rest of the stitches, take your needle in your right hand, hold it however you feel comfortable, and then you put the tip of your needle through the back of the stitch like that. So you can see from the top there. Okay, then you take your yarn, wrap it round a finger to keep your tension and wrap it round the back of the needle, like that, and then pull that through. So now you've got two loops, one on each needle. This needle on your right, this loop on your right needle, you're now going to slip on top of your left needle, like that, and pull. Again, not too tight, make sure they're nice and loose. Okay, I'll show you that again. So in through the back of the stitch, wrap your wool round, pull it through and slip it over. Okay, in through the back of the stitch, wrap your wool round. Okay, and now you keep doing this until you have 14 stitches on the needle. So what have we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to do it another 10 times. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, okay, so that should be 14 stitches now. Let's just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Brilliant. Right, so that is your cast on row. Basically now all we're going to do is knit these 14 stitches backwards and forwards until we get a strip 30 centimetres long. So to start with your knit stitches, it's actually very similar to the casting on. It's a very similar action, but you need to make sure that this hanging tail of yarn that's attached to your ball is hanging straight down from that last stitch. It's not wrapped over your needle that way or that way. Otherwise you're going to end up finding that you've somehow managed to create extra stitches. So make sure it's hanging down from your last stitch, and then exactly the same again, put your needle into the back of your stitch, wrap your wool round and pull. But this time, rather than bringing this loop back onto this needle, we're just going to slip this loop off like that. There you go. So now you've got a stitch on this needle. I'll show you that again. In through the back of the stitch, wrap it round and pull off. In through the back of the stitch, wrap it round, pull off. And again, in through the back of the stitch, wrap it round, pull off. So you keep going. I should have some music playing or something, I didn't think about that. Keep going to the very end, going in through the back of the stitch, wrapping round and pulling off, in through the back, wrap round, pull off, in through the back, wrap round, pull off, and last one. Okay, so now to straighten these up, all your 14 stitches are on your right hand needle and you've created your second row of knitting. Okay, so now you're going to take these 14 stitches on your right hand needle, this whole needle you're going to swap over and put in your left hand, and your empty needle goes into your right hand. Now this bit, like before, like I said, you have to make sure that your yarn's hanging straight down from your stitch. With this line, because you've got two strands now hanging down, you need to make sure that you pick up the right strand. So you've got your shorter strand that's going to become your hanging loop, and your longer strand of yarn which is attached to your ball. You need to make sure you pick up this one in order to make your stitches with. Otherwise you're going to find out that you've run out of yarn. So same again, in through the back, wrap round, pull off, in through the back, wrap round, pull off, in through the back, wrap round. And you're going to find your own tension as you do this, but I'm quite a loose knitter and I find that works very well for this pattern to stay nice and loose because it keeps the wool nice and stretchy for going around the frame. Some people are very tight knitters, and when you start out you tend to pull things a bit too tight, so as you're learning, try and learn to kind of just stay nice and loose with your knitting. Also means it doesn't hurt as much. Okay, so that's another row done, another row of 14 done. So like I said, you keep on going backwards and forwards until you get to 30 centimetres. I find it useful to count as I go. So you go, it helps to know that you've still got the right amount of stitches on your needle. So I've got 3. It's also helped me learn my 14 times tables. So rows go 14, 28, 42, 56, 70, 84, 98, 112, 124 and 140. And when you get to 140, that's 10 rows. And like when you're reading a book or doing anything, I find that that's a good place to stop and go make yourself a cup of tea or go, yay, I've done my first 10 rows. So here's one that is, this is about 2 sets of 10 rows. So at this point you've got to 140 and it's like, oh yay, chocolate time, brew time, biscuit time, celebrate. But yeah, and it's, or if you need to go and make the tea or go to the toilet, 140 is a good place to stop. But if you look everything is really nice and smooth and nice and even, and the better this is, the smoother and more even this is, the better it's going to look when it's on your heart. So if you've got this far, if you've got to sort of 2 sets of 10 and things aren't looking like this, then don't carry on any further. Otherwise you're going to get to the end of your 30 centimetres and be like, oh no, it's all raggedy and all over the place. If you find that you've not got 14 stitches anymore, if you find you've got like too many or too few and your edges aren't nice and straight and there may be a little hole in it, then it's quite nice, quite simple. It's going to be heartbreaking, but at least you're doing it at this and not at 30 centimetres. Take it off your needle and unravel it all. Pulls apart quite easy. So unravel it all. Okay, and start again. And you've got loads and loads of wool to do this with. There's way more than enough wool in your kit to make a heart. So you can just keep going with the same bit of wool, and you may find that you have to undo it quite a few times in order to get that kind of tension right and to get your smoothness and your evenness. But it's definitely worth doing, even if, you know, at one point you end up throwing the knitting needles across the living room. I did that several times when I was learning to knit, but all of a sudden you'll get your tension, how you feel comfortable doing it, it will all come together and you'll just be off and running, and you'll be able to keep going. Sorry, just casting on again. We'll leave that there. You're able to keep going until you get to 30 centimetres of beautiful, even, gorgeous knitting. Trust me, you will get there. It's not that difficult. It's really hard, and it's actually quite nice to do sat in front of the TV with a cup of tea, just chilled out, and just do it when there's no kids around, no distractions. Keep counting up to your 140s and go and having a nice little treat when you get to 140. Okay? Right. So now you've got your 30 centimetre piece, you have to do the casting off. Now this is actually the most difficult bit. So take your time with it, make sure you get it right, because like the cast on row, this row also has to be nice and loose so that it stretches around the frame. Okay? So, casting off. You're doing the same stitch again. You're going in through the needle, round and off, in through the needle, round and off, but you're stopping at 2 stitches, okay? This is where it gets a bit more complicated. So now you're going to pick up the first stitch on your left hand needle, and you're going to, I find it easier to put my finger on the end of the right hand needle so nothing slips off. You're going to lift that first stitch over the top of the second stitch so that you end up with just 1 stitch on your needle. Okay, I'll show you that again. Through the back, round, so you've now got 2 stitches, finger on the end of the needle, needle through the first stitch, slip it, I'm trying to show you, slip it over the second stitch and off the needle. Told you it's a bit more complicated, but keep persevering. Round. It might even be worth only knitting a few rows and trying this a couple of times before you get to trying it on your last 30 centimetre piece, because you don't want to ruin all that hard work by casting off wrong. So, in through, over and off. And again, try and keep it as loose as possible. So, knit your next stitch under the thing and then off. Okay, trying to do it as slowly as I can through, off. Knit your next stitch, got two stitches, pick up that first one, over the top of the second one and off the needle. Yeah. Knit your next stitch, pick up the first one, over the top of the second one and off the needle. And look, now you can see you're getting a nice neat cast off edge as you go. So under the first stitch, wrap it round and over. Okay, then you keep going until you get to the very end, to the last stitch. Oh, picked up too much wool there. See, even I struggle with this, and I've made thousands of these. There we go. Okay, so there you go. So now you're left with one stitch, and this one you need to secure so that it doesn't all unravel. So make the stitch a bit bigger, slip it on your finger, take the needle out, and then, where's my ruler gone? There's my ruler. You need to measure about just short of 1 metre. So that's 30. That should be enough. So you've got a really, really nice long, just short of 1 metre piece of yarn, and then cut it off. Now again, most patterns will not tell you to leave such a massively long tail, but this long tail we're going to use for sewing up. But you need to pass all of this tail through this last stitch first in order to secure it. So just pull the whole lot through and then pull. Not too tight again, just enough to secure it into place. And there you go. There's your strip, all cast off, all looking gorgeous, and we're ready now to sew it onto the frame. Just move the, let's get all my other bits and pieces out of the way first. Okay, so first thing to do is find your really long tail and thread it onto your needle. I'm actually quite nervous doing this. I didn't think I'd be this nervous. So if I've made mistakes, I am sorry. I'm putting it down to nerves. So yeah, thread your wool onto your needle. There we go. And then bring your two edges together. They should be roughly the same length. If they're not, don't worry about it too much. You can always stretch one a bit or squish one a bit to get them to fit. And then very, very simply, you're going to go in and out, going all the way across. And then my dog's just come and sat next to me. I'm just hoping his nose doesn't peer into the video any second. But there we go. So keep going, keep stitching all the way across. It's one of my hairs. Back and forth, all the way across. And this, there we go. In through there, out through the back. There we go. Now when you get to the end here, it's just worth putting an extra stitch in just to hold it all in place and make sure it's all nice and secure. Okay. And this is your shorter tail that's going to become your hanging loop. Okay, so now you've got your centre seam, nice seam, okay? And this is going to be the inside, so don't worry about this big bulb. You won't see that because that's going to be on the inside. Okay, so you need your frame now. You line this centre seam up with the dip in your heart, okay? And you stretch the two edges round till they meet up. And then stitch across. You need to put a couple of stitches just to start you off, just to secure everything in place in this seam at the top. Okay. Now once you're happy that's nice and secure, you need to stretch the rest of your strip around the rest of your frame. So there you go. Stretch it round until you've got nice even white gap all the way around the back. That way up. Right, so now all you're going to do is pick up your needle again with your thread in, and then basically we just need to join all these edges all the way around. So using your thumb and your finger, pinch it together and put your first couple of stitches in. Now the really important bit with this is that you don't pull these stitches too tight, because if you pull them too tight you're going to create holes along here and you don't want that. You just want to pull them tight enough for the joins, for the edges to join together and not to create any holes, okay? There you go, very easy. Just keep going all the way around. Not pulling too tight. Right. I'm not going to make you watch me stitch it all the way around, don't worry. In true Blue Peter style. Where's it gone? It's one I made earlier. Yay! Okay, so you can see there's just that last little bit to finish off now. And like when you started, when you get to the end, it's just worth putting, if you've got any like little gaps like that, it's just worth putting a few little stitches in just to make sure everything's nice and secure and there's no holes. Okay? Right. So there you go. We just need now to secure this end. So to do that, just slide it underneath a couple of times and cut it off. There you go. So now there's your heart. Fantastic. It's looking good, isn't it? You might find at this point that this centre seam has kind of drifted over here or over here, so just make sure your centre seam's levelled up with the bump in your heart, and make sure that all your stitches are spread nice and even. You've got no big holes. If you have got big holes, then don't worry about it. You've got plenty of yarn, so you can just go and, you know, stitch in a few times to cover up on any holes. Now, if you've got really dark yarn like this one, then there are going to be the odd bits and pieces. I don't know if you're picking it up, where you see a little bit of the white coming through. That can't be helped. If it's in the middle of a stitch and you've got a little bit of white showing through, you're not really going to help that. It's because the colour of the yarn is so dark. With these slightly paler ones, you don't get that. You don't get the, well, it does still show through, but it's not as obvious. Okay, so don't get too hung up on trying to cover up every single tiny fleck of white, because you're just not going to be able to do it with these darker yarns. Okay, right, so now it's time to create the loop. So turn it over. This, where you've got the seam, where you've got that bump, this is the back of the heart. And you'll need that for if you've bought the letters, for gluing the letters on, to know whether you've glued the letters onto the front or the back. The bump goes on the back, okay? So take your shorter tail, or the only tail you should have now, and kind of fold it in half. And then thread that onto your needle. Okay, so you've got a loop above your needle, okay? And then go in through the back of the heart and then pop up through the top, in the middle, at the top. Yeah. And pull. Okay. Now you can use this bit that's hanging down to make sure you get it to the right length. That's probably about right. Yeah. Then thread this bit back onto your needle. And again, just stitch it through a few times so that you've secured your hanging loop in place and your hanging loop's not going to go anywhere. Okay, just to double check, pick it up, give it a bit of a jiggle, make sure it's not going to slip around. Perfect. When you're happy it's secure, cut off the excess, and there you go. One beautiful finished heart. Fantastic. Now, all you need to do is find somewhere gorgeous to hang it and take a photograph and upload it onto the Facebook page, Knit a Heart, where there's a chance to enter competitions and win prizes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, see you soon. Bye.